The warrior planet Mars enters graceful Libra on Wednesday, August 6th, and there it immediately opposes Saturn and Neptune, suggesting delays, confusion, and disappointment. I am here to break down Mars in Libra for all 12 signs and tell you what to expect. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, predictive, locational, and electional readings. If you enjoy my work, please leave me a like, a comment, subscribe, press the notification bell, watch more of my content. There is something for everyone, so check out the rest of my videos. You can also check out my yoga channel as I blend astrology and yoga together and post flows that are connected to your zodiac sign or the events we're going through. You can find it on my channel if you scroll down a little bit. I also invite you to work with me and book a personal reading on my website. You can do a natal chart, a predictive reading such as year ahead or solar return. Solar return is best done around your birthday. I do relationship consultations. We can elect the perfect time to start your business, or take a look at the places in the world that could be best for you. All of that on my website. On there, you can also register for my lovely natal astrology course. It begins in September, and in 3 months, you will learn how to read charts, how to be your own astrologer and interpret events, as well as the energies you're born with, to live life with more confidence and self-awareness. So definitely check it out and sign up. Finally, since we are talking about Mars in Libra, and Mars is in its detriment in Libra, it struggles with indecision, with conflict avoidance, with being too passive-aggressive and drama-seeking sometimes, I'd like to highlight my Empowered Mars Kazemi candle, which was created with Mars in Scorpio, Mars in rulership, very strategic, very good at knowing when to fight, when not to fight. Ninja Mars, conjunct the Sun. Kazemi is the exact perfect conjunction which actually empowers the planet. This could be great for the next month and a half while Mars is in Libra. Especially recommend this to those born with Mars in Libra, or if your Mars is in Cancer or Taurus. If your Mars is in the 8th or 12th houses, if it conjoins, squares, opposes Saturn, or if you were born with Mars retrograde, because then it's a bit more difficult for you to express frustration to begin with. So Mars is in Libra from Wednesday, August 6th until September 22nd, 2025. To know a little bit about Mars in Libra, we can imagine the warrior, the soldier that is Mars. You can also think of the smith. It's the planet of action. It's the planet of aggression. It's the planet of severing and cutting and separating. And it's the most self-driven planet there is. It's not actually the sun. Mars is a lot more about self than the sun. The sun is, of course, too, but less so in my opinion. When Mars is in its home signs, when it's in Scorpio or when it's in Aries, it is at its best, and it's the most free. It's free to do its own thing. When it's in the sign of the other planet in Libra, it's in the sign of Venus, it has to behave in accordance to the nature of the sign. And you can think of it, Adam Ellenbus was using that on his Nightlight Astrology podcast. He was talking about staying at a hotel. And this, Mars, the warrior, is staying in the hotel that is run by Venus. And so Venus will bring Mars relationships. It will bring Mars beauty. It will bring Mars music. And what will Mars do, right? Mars in Libra can encourage us to work through difficulties in partnerships, to find compromise, to reach agreement, right? It can be like this very well-versed diplomat. You see Mars in Libra in a lot of athletes' charts, especially like group sports. My boyfriend is really into American football, and so I get myself interested by looking at their charts. And so a lot of times they would have Mars in Libra. So Mars that is involved in teamwork, right? So we may notice that we are focused on doing teamwork. It could be good for bringing attention to some kind of injustice in the Venusian realm, right? Like Mars will be like, let's fight for this. And Venus will be like, how about fighting for justice? So being more aware of issues in the beauty industry, in the fashion industry, in politics, and things like that. So Mars can be, it can be very much like productive in Libra if we're aware. However, if Venus gives Mars a relationship, there could be maybe a tendency to avoid conflict in relationships, which is not always good. Being, just sort of quiet, but yet pissy and frustrated, being like bottling things up until you snap, until you like bring some drama to the dinner table, fighting at the wrong times or not fighting at all, being really indecisive, right? On the positive, you see it in charts of actors who express their frustration on screen when the script is given them and the words are written for them, which is a very healthy way of expressing Mars, I guess. So a lot of actors are doing remediation. It could encourage you to win arguments with style, to be a peacemaker, a diplomat, to actually go to the negotiation table and to figure out how to make everyone agree. So you're still fighting, but you're fighting in this more like diplomatic and charming way and actually for the good of all. But you gotta watch out for like passive aggressiveness, the indecision, the fear of being the bad guy. And I notice relatively often with Mars and Libra, there is love for drama, but not always like awareness of that love for drama. So you may consciously or unconsciously stir some drama by being like, oh, did you hear what so-and-so said about you? Under the pretense of like being a good guy, but actually maybe stirring some drama. So be aware of that. And for those of us who are not born with this, we're gonna experience this energy as maybe a little bit more uncomfortable. If this is your natal Mars, you have been living with it, you have been working with it, so you may have a much better grasp on it, right? A much more self-awareness than the rest of us. So enjoy, use it for good, of course. Some important dates to note: on August 8th, Mars will trine Uranus. So we have a couple of things building at once, right? August 8th and 9th, Mars opposes Saturn and Neptune. And this feels, and give it 4 days on each side, before and after. This creates friction, this creates irritation, this creates delays, confusion. Mars opposite Neptune can be a sense of like someone disappointing you, or you lack energy, you don't believe in yourself. So like Saturn might bring an actual roadblock, and then Neptune might create this like feeling of inadequacy or impotence on some level. Not like a literal, it could be literally, of course, for some people, but for others it could be like just a sense of what's the point. But at the same time, on August 8th, Mars also trines Uranus, and on the 10th it trines Pluto, so it forms a grand air trine. We have Libra, we have Aquarius, Pluto, and we have Uranus in Gemini. And so there is this very interesting flow between those three planets. Like Mars and Libra would want to create peace and beauty and maybe connect and get along with other people, while Uranus and Gemini will offer a lot of unique solutions, and Pluto in Aquarius will make sure it serves the world, right? And it's futuristic and it's progressive and innovative. So while you're dealing with a little bit of depression and discouragement, things don't have to be really difficult. August 14th and 18th, we have Mercury sextiling Mars, really good for communication. September 4th, Mars will square Jupiter. For all of these, 4 days before, 4 days after. Around September 4th, before and after, watch out for overdoing it, because Mars square Jupiter could be like pouring gasoline onto fire. Mars is like, let's go fast. Jupiter is like, let's go in even faster. Here is this rocket ship. So don't push too far. September 15th, we have Venus sextiling Mars. My birthday also. I can't not, whenever September 15th is mentioned, I feel like it's my duty and honor to tell you that it is my birthday on the 15th of September. Venus sextiles Mars, so very romantic and beautiful and lovely. So this is it as far as Mars and Libra. I have posted videos on this transit before. If you want to check out any of my previous Mars and Libra videos, do that. And let's break it down for all 12 zodiac signs. If you want more astrology, register for my natal astrology course. We're only about a month away. You can also book a personal reading and pick up my Marshall candle to navigate the challenges of Mars and Libra with more oomph and preparedness. If you are an Aries rising, Mars is entering your 7th house. So positives are desire to date, commitment to dating, putting yourself out there, being energized and focused. Negatives, maybe fighting in relationships a little bit more, maybe some friction and a tendency to avoid conflict but stir drama anyways. Maybe being more passive aggressive. So sometimes it's important to bring awareness to some of the challenges instead of sweeping things under the rug. Mars opposes Saturn and Neptune in your 1st house, so there's definitely some friction between your desire to be in a relationship versus what your duties are to yourself. Maybe you still need to heal, maybe you still need to take care of your well-being, right? Maybe you have a busy work life that is preventing you from dating, but Mars is giving you this desire to like get in bed with someone romantically or business or some other way. So having to balance this opposite energy is highlighted here for you. For more, book a reading or register for my natal astrology course on my website. If you are a Taurus rising, Mars is entering your 6th house, giving you the drive and energy to work and to problem solve and to actually be a peacemaker, a diplomat. Your colleagues are bringing you a problem. Your faucet breaks, something else, arises and you're able to handle it. You might prefer to solve problems while you have your trusted confidant or a friend next to you. You will enjoy exercising in tandem with someone else, but because Mars in Libra is in its detriment, there may be a tendency to be a bit more indecisive, to be driven by people pleasing and then stuck trying to make a decision because it's hard to please everyone, pretty much impossible. Passive aggressiveness with colleagues, maybe even some colleagues that are acting passive aggressive is also likely here. We also have the difficult Mars, Saturn and Neptune opposition, with Saturn and Neptune being in your 12th house. There might be forces outside of your control that you're dealing with. There may be some like mental health matters that you're needing to address, some self-defeating patterns popping up. There may be some hidden enemies that are sabotaging you, right? Like you're trying to get stuff at work done, but somebody else is reporting on you or saying something that is messing with your peace of mind. So choose the high road always. Do not let people get under your skin. Highly recommend Mars Cazimi. This is Mars in rulership. Conjunct the Sun, empower it, can help you avoid some of the downsides of this transit. Pick it up on my website. You can also book a reading or register for my natal astrology course on there. It begins very shortly in early September. If you are a Gemini rising, Mars is entering your 5th house. Here we have the drive to make art, to have fun, right? Mars here will give you energy to date. Maybe you have been single and now you're like, I want to go out there, I want to dance, I want to meet someone and have a good time. So it can encourage you to have a good time, to just take pleasure maybe in life. It can encourage you to go out, right? Dress up, have a good time. I feel like I've said it 5 times already. You're also more creative, you're more inspired, you're more driven to spend time with children. There may be more opportunities to spend time with children, more opportunities to take on a new hobby as well. Because Mars is in its detriment in your 5th house, watch out for conflict avoidance. This could be your child throwing a tantrum or your child being really difficult and you're trying to please them. And then you end up just spending too much energy, getting exhausted and snapping at them anyways. So try to be mindful of that. There might be also a strong, like, people pleasing, indecisive energy that comes with this transit. Highly recommend my Empowered Mars Kazemi candle for this transit. You can find it on my website. You can also book a reading on there or register for my natal astrology course. It begins in September. If you are a Cancer rising, Mars is entering your 4th house of home, family, and living situation. And here it energizes you to maybe do home improvement projects, to spend time with family. Maybe you're defending your family, or you're connecting with them and you're being active together, like building a pool together or playing a game of soccer together. You might also be fighting with family because Mars is in detriment in Libra. There might be a lot of frustration that you're trying to suppress until perhaps it blows up and results in hurt feelings. So try to be expressive and good at setting boundaries. Don't let things escalate. And it might be especially difficult early on, the first 10 days of this transit, as Mars opposes Saturn and Neptune. And Saturn and Neptune are in your 10th house of career and public life. And so there might be some kind of sense of maybe delays in the professional sector, or confusion, disappointment that you're bringing home with you. So don't bring work problems home. Try to keep them at work, right? Don't express your frustration by stirring dark feelings in other people. I can also see this. I wonder if it's like you tell a story to your child and it ends up freaking them out, and you were just sharing, but maybe you overshared. So be mindful of that. Highly recommend my Mars Kazemi candle. It's Mars empowered and in rulership. Can be really good for the next month and a half. Find it on my website. You can also register for my natal astrology course or book your reading on there too. If you are a Leo rising, Mars is entering your 3rd house. This could be powerful for writing, new ideas, faster turnaround, meeting more people, going out, socializing. Things speed up in your everyday life. Watch out, of course, for driving too fast or rushing places and getting into careless accidents, like grabbing a really hot iron pan or stumbling and, I don't know, slamming your face on a wall or something like that. So it could be a great transit for writing, for blogging, for podcasting, for maybe even dealing with some kind of logistical issue, filing some paperwork, right? At the same time, Mars here is in its detriment. So you will try to avoid conflicts at all costs, and as a result come across as passive aggressive or bullying or indecisive. So it's best to kind of try to balance it out by speaking honestly and expressing your feelings as they pop up instead of letting them build. The first 10 days of this transit are difficult as Mars opposes Saturn and Neptune in your 9th house. So there might be some delays involving travel, involving legal matters, education, publishing, even some ideological disagreements that affect you a lot and lead to some kind of irritation and maybe battles with people. I think it suggests that there's going to be a delay to something that you're working on and an opportunity to move through it with patience and compassion and self-love and kindness. If you need astrological help, I have Mars Kazemi candles still. These capture Mars in rulership and can be really helpful during this month and a half period. You can find them on my website. You can also register for my natal astrology course or book a personal reading. The course begins in September, so it's very close, very soon, and you can still sign up. If you are a Virgo rising, Mars is entering your 2nd house of money and values. Positives energizes you to take action, to pay off debts, to hustle, to make money. Negatives, spending more money, being more impulsive when it comes to finances, being passive aggressive about money because maybe you don't like something but you choose not to speak up. you're trying to be good for everyone, and as a result, you end up being more frustrated. You should also beware of, so like, yeah, people pleasing, being passive aggressive, being very indecisive here. If you need to make a decision, try to weigh all the pros and cons and take action eventually, right? Like, ask for help if necessary and keep your priorities kind of clear. Remember what you're trying to accomplish. If you need astrological help, Mars Kazemi could be a really good candle at this time. You can find it on my website. You can also register for my natal astrology course or book a personal reading on there too. If you are a beautiful Libra rising, Mars is entering your first house. So here we're looking at the house of health, body, image, and identity. And Mars in the first house is good news. It's finally coming out of your 12th. So your sleep should improve. You feel more energetic, more courageous, more willing to take action towards your goals. Of course, you're doing that in a diplomatic Libra way, which can sometimes lead to indecision and conflict avoidance and being a little bit passive aggressive. The first 10 days or so of this transit are especially irritating because we have Mars in opposition to Saturn and Neptune in your 7th house of relationships. So something is happening in the life of your partner, something is happening in your business, even your contract with your landlord or some other kind of agreements that you're involved in that is taking away from what you rather would be doing. And so the heaviness, the overwhelm of your obligations can be really irritating at this point. But instead of pushing harder, take a moment to step back and reassess. If you need astrological help, Mars Kazemi could be a really good choice for the next month and a half while Mars is in the sign of its detriment. Highly recommend. You can also find it on my website. You can also register for my natal astrology course or book a personal reading on my website. If you are a Scorpio rising, Mars is your chart ruler and it's entering the 12th house, your sector of mental health, spirituality, self-defeating tendencies, right? So it can encourage you to connect with your spiritual self. Mars in the 7th could be the time you're doing yoga regularly or you're meditating every day, right? Maybe even traveling. There might be this desire to kind of like retreat and go to a spiritual place. However, the first 10 days or so, Mars will oppose Saturn and Neptune in your 6th house. So your desire for reflection and for quiet time and for spiritual pursuits will be restricted by the amount of items on your to-do list. So having to deal with some delays, some restrictions, some sense of overwhelm is likely. And Mars in Libra is in its detriment, so the tendency might be to avoid conflict, to retreat, but then still come across as passive aggressive because the energy has to come out somewhere. There may be indecision, there may be sort of inner friction. Sometimes Mars in the 12th house brings up issues in your sleep because 12th house is this place of subterranean, subconscious energy. So do take good care of yourself, take long walks, exercise, and try to express the feelings. Try to find good ways to compromise. Highly recommend my Mars Kazemi candle for the next month and a half. It is Mars in Scorpio, so it falls in your first house, empowered by the conjunction with the sun. You can find it on my website. You can also register for my natal astrology course on there or book a personal reading. For the lovely Sagittarius rising, Mars is entering your 11th house and it inspires you to connect with others. It gives you energy to see friends, to maybe travel with friends, to exercise together, right? Or volunteer together. You're very kind of driven to surround yourself with like-minded people or even do work that helps other people. It's a great transit for pioneering any new projects, for maybe even resolving conflicts in your community. Let's say if you are a lawyer, maybe you take like a case that involves a community and you like do something that helps everyone. Mars is in its detriment in Libra, so I have to mention that it can also bring up indecision and conflict avoidance and maybe some friction in friendships that you're really trying to sweep under the rug and not deal with, but it feels frustrating anyway. So try to speak up. The first 10 days of the transit can be especially irritating because Mars in your 11th will oppose Saturn and Neptune in the 5th. And so there may be some delays, some frustration, some disappointment, disillusionment involving your love life, or maybe duties to your child, or some kind of creative slowdown and delay that affects your plans or affects your sense of joy, your sense of joie de vivre. So move through it patiently. Do speak up about things that are irritating you. Try not to sort of, rush things, and lean into self-care. It's okay if there are some delays. Saturn is not saying never gonna happen. It's just saying hold on and maybe rethink some things. Highly recommend my Mars Kazemi candle as a way to remediate this transit. You can find it on my website. You can also register for my natal astrology course. It's only a month away, begins in September, and you can also book a personal reading on there. If you are a Capricorn rising, Mars is entering your 10th house of career, public life, status, and reputation. And of course, it energizes you to go after your goals. It boosts your ambition. It brings more focus on your long-term goals. You are active. You are energetic. You're maybe asking for more responsibility at work, taking on more, starting a new business, starting a new job, right? Like taking on a couple of projects at once. However, the first 10 days or so, Mars will be opposite Saturn and Neptune. And Saturn and Neptune are in your 4th house. So your home life and your living situation and your family may present some kind of obstacles on your path. And there may be a sense of needing to move slowly and direct your attention to that place of home, family, and living situation. So delays are likely to be just that. They're not going to be like sort of X marks, never going to happen, but you will be encouraged to deal with some kind of heaviness or seriousness in the realm of home, family, living situation. If you know what it is, do share. And also watch out for Mars in Libra being in its detriment and being really kind of indecisive, people pleasing, too focused on other people. It will do you more good to be clear about what you want, and then from that place it's easier to negotiate and compromise and come to an agreement with other people potentially. For more help, Mars Kazemi could be great if you're seeking astrological magic. You can find it on my website. You can also book a personal reading or register for my natal astrology course on there. If you are an Aquarius rising, Mars is entering your 9th house, and it's giving you the energy to seek something higher, to think about trips, to think about travel, to study, to pick up a foreign language or make a foreign friend, right? There may be a new passion that you have. 9th house is a very spiritual place on many levels. It's the house of astrology. So you may be inspired to study astrology. If you are, join my course. It starts in September. But there is something that Mars is urging you to do. Grow somehow, right? And this might be really different based on what you're interested in. I think 9th house is open to interpretation, but it could be about travel, it could be about learning, it could be about writing a book, telling your story somehow. Mars is in its detriment in Libra, so with it comes indecision, conflict avoidance, a tendency to be passive aggressive. Maybe that indecision is connected to you trying to please everyone, worrying, what people might think of you, how they might interpret what you're doing. So try to find a good balance between, you know, helping others and helping yourself. And gotta warn you that the first 10 days of this transit can be really irritating, as Mars opposes Saturn and Neptune in your third house. And there might be some logistical issues that are slowing you down. Like you decided to go on a trip, but you find out that your car is not running, that there is an issue with it. Or you decide to sign up for school, going to university, but you realize that you still, like, you don't know where your diploma is, or it's taking too long to get all of your information from your previous school. There might be some like heavy communication, ideological disagreements, delays, frustration, self-doubt, and negative inner chatter. So try to be mindful of that. I do recommend my Mars Kazemi candle as an astrological improvement, remediation for Mars in Libra. You can find it on my website. You can also register for my natal astrology course, as mentioned. Could be a great time right now, and book a personal reading. Last but not least, if you are a Pisces rising, Mars is entering your 8th house, inspiring you to work with other people. It could be a great transit for negotiating things, agreeing, especially when it comes to finances. Like, let's say you're involved in a custody battle of some sorts, or you're discussing a pay raise, something like that. That could be like a really good energy for being diplomatic, right? Being kind of good at problem solving. It could also inspire you to pay off debts and to handle any financial matters. It could be the time you go in debt and maybe like take on some kind of loan. So be mindful of that, right? Don't act kind of recklessly when it comes to finances. Could also be the time when you're maybe fighting a little bit about when it comes to like fairness and disagreeing about finances with your partner. Mars in Libra is in its detriment, so it may avoid fighting at all costs, but then still come across as like passive aggressive and maybe harsh, dramatic, right? Drama seeking. It's going to come out somewhere. There may be indecision. There may be sort of too much focus on people pleasing. Something to watch out for. The first 10 days or so, we have Mars in opposition to Saturn and Neptune, and Saturn and Neptune are in your 2nd house of personal finances, personal values. So you're maybe dealing with disagreements around priorities, maybe with, you know, some kind of heavy financial decisions, some type of like need to be more discerning when you're ready to make a big purchase. There is some kind of delay, some kind of slowdown, or you're thinking about an investment, but the money is spoken for otherwise. Move slowly, be discerning, ask for help if necessary. It could be a good time to reach out to a financial advisor. And if you need more help from astrology, Mars Kazemi is a great choice right now. Highly recommend. You can find it on my website. You can also register for my natal astrology course on there. It begins in September, so soon. And you can book a personal reading if you'd like. Let me know how this resonates. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Always a pleasure. Please subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.